Hello fellow hunters, if you clicked on this video you are one of two things. First, being an avid switchaxe enjoyer like myself, or you're just interested in the switchaxe, which I'm glad to hear. In this video, it'll just be covering my take on the switchaxe, and if you can't tell from the title, I think the WILDS switchaxe is the best the weapon has felt in a long time in my personal opinion. The first thing I will immediately cover with this is a big problem the switchaxe has faced over the past few years is the balance between the axe mode and the sword mode. Because ever since about World and onward, the axe mode has gotten less and less and less valuable, and it just all became about the sword. Which in Wilds, I'm glad to tell you that it really is not the case. The axe has gotten the most amount of usage for me that I think it almost ever has, even all the way to 4U. This for a few reasons. The first, and probably the worst reason that I do think should be fixed a little, is the sword overall does less damage and is quite nerfed, which I know this hurt a lot of people. I've seen a lot of people complain about it, and you know what? I get it. When a weapon isn't as strong as it used to be, it kind of loses that prestige. But for me personally, the weapon has to be really, really bad for me to not use it, and I still feel it is more than usable and still feels strong enough at killing monsters. Another reason the axe has become more valuable is the removal of passive regen unless you have your weapon sheathed, meaning you have to land more axe hits to actually recharge your gauge, encouraging the use of it. No more quick reloads due to wire bugs, none of that. You have to either reload it, which is not doing damage, or swing your axe, which will do damage and will give you a lot of your gauge back. Especially if, my third reason is active, the new axe charge mode increases your damage by about 10% and also increases how much sword gauge you get back, which is really good. One more thing that makes the axe mode far more viable now than it was before is it getting an offset attack, something the sword mode did not get. Now, if you don't know what an offset attack is, it's a unique attack granted to a select few weapons that allows you to counter/clash monsters and follow up with your own attack. This is helpful for a few reasons. One, you have pretty much a counter. Two, there's actually a skill that is in the open beta that allows you to get a notable damage bonus if you land a offset attack clash, which means you will do more damage in your sword mode if you do an offset clash beforehand. This is once again another reason to actually use the axe mode. Now for you avid sword enjoyers, which is all of us, don't worry, the sword mode is still definitively stronger in terms of damage and got some new additions too. The two most notable additions being Unbridled Slash and Full Release Slash, which are similar but still different, and one can only be accessed when you have full sword gauge. The first being Unbridled Slash, which is the one you could do without the sword gauge. Pretty much after you do a discharge, if you click ZR, or if you do the discharge input and immediately click ZR, you will pull back your sword, charge it up for a little, and pretty much do the equivalent of doing a discharge slash, spinning the sword around, it blowing up, doing a bunch of elemental damage. Overall, it is an incredibly strong move, and it is even stronger when you have sword gauge and you can do the full release slash, which is pretty much the same concept, except you charge it up for longer and you get even more hits and even more damage. I really like these two additions considering it gives a purpose to use discharge instead of using zero-sum discharge. One of the reasons I just couldn't get into World Switchaxe as much is the over-centralization of zero-sum discharge for damage. While I don't think zero-sum discharge should be removed, and don't worry, it's still in Wilds as seen on screen, I do think there needs to be a purpose for each one of them, and now there is. Zero-sum does more raw damage and is safer, but you can't go into Unbridled or Full Release Slash. This is a good change, giving the switchaxe just more versatility, more moves, and overall one I hope stays far after Wilds. The second notable sword addition is the sword mode got a new counter. It is nothing like Elemental Burst counter in Rise, which, as sad as it is considering Elemental Burst counter, while I do think was very over-centralizing, was incredibly fucking badass, it is still just an overall nice addition. Pretty much, you take a step back, they hit you, you do a double slash counter in response, and can go into Heaven's Flurry right after. Something a little simple, you do take damage even when you do the counter. It's nothing crazy, but it's nice to keep the aggression going. The last thing that makes switchaxe feel really, really good in this game is focus mode. Now, switchaxe is the only weapon in the game to have 2 different focus mode attacks. One if you're in axe and one if you're in sword, which not even charge blade actually gets this. If you're in axe charge blade mode, you immediately go back to sword and shield. So this is something entirely unique to the switchaxe. When you do a focus attack in axe mode, you get a bunch of quick swipes followed up by an overhead slash that will immediately put you in charge axe mode. This is great because it puts you in charge axe mode, and also you'll get a bunch of sword gauge back. If you do it in sword mode, you get the same concept, but instead of finishing with an overhead swipe, you finish with an elemental discharge. This can be immediately followed up with unbridled or full release slash, making it a great damage dealer. What's even better is since you can change in between either of them to the other version, you could get a bunch of your gauge back with the axe combo, finish with an elemental discharge, and then follow up with unbridled or full release. On the other side, you could do a bunch of sword attacks, then realize you're running low on gauge, quickly swap to axe mode for the finisher, get a bunch of gauge back, and now you're in axe charge mode, so you continue to recover your gauge and follow up. With all these things being said, this is the most balanced switchaxe has ever felt between its 2 modes, and to me, that is great. I think as being the only real axe weapon in the game, considering charge blade is more chainsaw-y, blow-up-y than it's ever been before, it's good to see that the axe mode is actually useful, considering the only time it's ever been remotely close is just kind of spamming morph slash combo and rise, which isn't really using the axe. Now, there is one complaint I would have, which it's not inherently a complaint, it's more something that I'd like to see get brought back, which in some way, shape, or form, I think elemental burst counter should make a comeback. Maybe not give you full charge gauge, but the animation is fucking rad, and I would love to see it return in some way, shape, or form, because it's fucking badass. But besides that, I think everything that has been removed and added has made the most balanced switchaxe gameplay in a long time. And I'm really excited going forward, considering a lot of other weapons got some really good treatment, and some of them kind of got the short end of the stick, but for right now, we don't have to worry about that. One thing I'd like to point out is a common complaint among people who have played the switchaxe is that it doesn't do enough damage in Wilds, which it definitely does less than it used to, I won't lie. I do believe that this will change when we get access to elemental switchaxes, considering all the weapons that are pretty much known for doing well with elements have been pretty bad in the beta, because all the weapons are raw damage. Because of this, I do think we should really wait till there's some new open beta that might give us access to some elemental weapons, or till the game actually releases to voice concerns about potential damage issues. And even then, it is far, far from the worst weapon in terms of damage output in the beta. The poor dual blades and insight glaive are looking very, very weak right now. So I feel like the switchaxe is overall in a good place. It's a bit weaker than what it used to be, but I do feel like it is the best it's ever felt to actually play. Now, if you liked switchaxe for the amount of damage it used to be able to output in games like Rise, you might not like it nearly as much, or maybe even at all, in this game. But if you generally just like the concept and how it feels to play the switchaxe, I think you will love this weapon in Wilds. But hey, that's just my opinion. If you have any more questions, or if you're someone who's played the open beta, let me know down below your opinions, comments, concerns, anything at all. I love civil discussion, especially about my favorite weapon, the switchaxe. Thank you guys for watching. If you like what I make here on this channel, I'm trying to hit 500 before the end of the year, so any sub is highly appreciated. And yeah, I hope to see you guys next time. Bye-bye.